We have about 235 people registered for today's webinar, so really appreciate your participation. And I know in this virtual setting, it's hard to commit to a full day and to participate for a full day. I imagine we'll have folks coming in and out throughout the day. But yeah, just really, you're surrounded by many of your colleagues across sectors and across the US and Canada. So fantastic to see faces today, and um, good to see folks who we saw yesterday. As many of you know, the annual meeting week of the Oil Spill Task Force is a chance to connect with our federal partners as well, which we did yesterday, and as an Oil Spill Task Force member jurisdictions, which we also did yesterday afternoon. We have folks joining together in person in a few different locations, and of course, those of us joining independently from our desks or homes or offices throughout the region and across the country. This is the 36th annual task force meeting, so it's really good to see folks here, and I'd love to hear. Let's see, as folks are putting their names in the chat, let's see, I'll give a chance to do a couple speaker tests as well. I'm curious if maybe we can use, let's see. If you'd like to use the chat, I'm curious if you've been to more than 10 annual meetings of the Oil Spill Task Force, or more than 20. Okay, well, I think we're getting towards a critical mass and worth getting started this morning. So I hope you're able to, grab a cup of coffee and sit down and enjoy today. Next slide. We'll go ahead and get started with a overview of today, a little welcome introduction from the task force, and I'll kick us off today. Our first session is an executive coordinator update from myself. I'll do introductions in a moment. And this is to give us a sense of, what the task force is, what we've been working on for the past year, kind of what our history is, and hopefully set the context for our jurisdictional updates from our executive members, which will be our morning session for today. So we have an opportunity to hear from all of the task force jurisdictions, 5 provinces, and the BC, 5 states in the province of BC, from 10 to noon this morning Pacific time. We'll take a break about halfway through that session, and then we'll have lunch at noon. So that's what our morning looks like. If we can go back to the Zoom direction. So as just an orientation to today, most of you are joining as webinar participants, which means that you will largely be using the chat and the Q&A as ways to participate today. We'd like to use the Q&A to ask panelists and speakers questions about the content. And we'd like to use the chat in a couple different ways. First and foremost, if you're having technical problems, please use the chat for that. I have 2 colleagues, Danielle and Allie, who are monitoring the chat and also monitoring the task force email, which is ostf@Triangle Associates. Those are 2 really great places if you're having technical problems and you'd like to bring that to our attention. We can help you sort that out. The chat is also a really great place for sidebar conversations. You'll be able to communicate with all of your colleagues there in the chat. And we will be posting some questions there throughout the day. We have kind of two interactive ways for you to participate today. Via the chat, we'll be posting some kind of prompt questions, and we also have some polls set up in Zoom. So as you see polls come up throughout the day, we encourage you to participate that way too. I do see one hand raised from attendees. That's another way to get our attention if you're in the attendee platform of the webinar and feel a need to ask a question directly to someone or bring it to our attention. We can do that, and then we can communicate with you that way. Okay, so I've given us a little orientation to the morning session. Before I jump in, so my name is Meg Harris. I'm the coordinator for the Oil Spill Task Force. I work for Triangle Associates, and I mentioned two colleagues that I have on the call helping us wrap through today. I have a number of colleagues on the Oil Spill Task Force, executive team members, and coordinating committee members. I'm wondering if we can have some of you hop on your cameras at this point. And Danny, maybe we can, yeah, thanks, take the screen share off. I'd just like to give a little introduction to folks, and I'll give you a chance to come off mute and say hello to the group today if you'd like. So I know we have representation from all of the jurisdictions of the Oil Spill Task Force, from Alaska to Hawaii and British Columbia. Really good to see faces here. Again, our California and Oregon folks are together in person, so you can see them in the room. Before we dive into the rest of the day and the update for myself, are there executives or coordinating committee members that would like to introduce yourselves? This is a great time to check your audio, say hello to the group, any sort of framing that you'd like to share or welcomes to our attendees for today.
Good morning.
Hi, Liz.
Wait, it says my audio. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, you're a little quiet, so we'll work on that before the executive coordinator update, but maybe we can get we can hear you a little better before your jurisdictional update.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Liz
Hi,
is with
good morning,
Hawaii.
everyone. I'm Kelly Krasnowski. I'm with the BC Ministry of Environment and a coordinating member of the Oil Spills Task Force. And this is always a great meeting, and it's great to see 243 people, or maybe has risen since, and looking forward to it to a very successful day today, productive.
Thank you, Kelly.
Good morning, everybody. Kara Couchet here. I'm with Alaska DEC Spill Prevention and Response. I'm happy to be filling in for our director, Teresa Melville, today, who's pulled off on some response work. I just wanted to say welcome to everybody and that we really value our partnerships. Thank you.
Good morning from Washington, Oregon at the Lacey headquarters building.
Hi, everyone. This is Mike Kaczynski. I'm with Oregon DEQ. I'm the Interim Land Quality Division Administrator, and looking forward to today, and thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, looking at the chat, great to see Poppies on our Canadian counterparts. I know we're both coming into Remembrance Day and Veterans Day next week, and honoring that. And the other thing I'd like to honor is just the folks that we don't have on the call today. I know we're in kind of unstable times, and there's a lot of people who express their condolences about not being able to join us, being on furlough or in pulled into other positions or out on responses. So for all those reasons, we have, you know, I appreciation and gratitude for those of you who are able to join today, thinking of our colleagues who are out doing other important work. It was very clear to me at last year's meeting, as we adapted really easily and well to a tsunami response, that this group of folks are emergency responders at your core. And you do important work that pulls you away from desks at critical times. It was an asset last year as we kind of nimbly adapted to conditions. And yeah, I just really want to honor the work that you're doing outside of this. And in that way, we appreciate your participation throughout the day. If at any point you need to get step away for other kind of critical time-sensitive work, we understand. And in the same way, take care of yourself today. I know it's a full day on a computer, so take breaks as you need. Obviously, you know, we're not in a setting where you're on camera all day, but yeah, just recognizing that please do what you need to do today to participate in the ways that you'd like, and just again, appreciation for being here. Okay. Danny, let's come back to the agenda and then we'll come into our first session, which is our executive coordinator update. So I ran through our morning agenda already, and I'll walk through this afternoon agenda. So after a lunch hour, which is 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific time, we will spend an hour honoring our Legacy Award winners. And this is something I'm very much looking forward to today. We have 7 very deserving Legacy Award winners who've agreed to be here, and also to participate in a career legacy panel. So I'll do some introductions for those Legacy Award winners for this year, and then we'll hear from them, particularly, you know, folks who have been doing this work quite a long time, career legacies, and we've prepared some questions for them regarding, you know, early to later aspects of their careers, advice for new members of this field, and kind of understand how they perceive the Oil Spill Task Force over the years. So really looking forward to that, and I hope that everyone is able to join for that session. The rest of the afternoon, we have 2 topical sessions. First, we have a session on technology as a tool for environmental and responder health. We'll take a break just before 3 o'clock, and we have a session of 4 speakers on the theme of particularly good collaboration. So you'll hear kind of a variety of work being done, but all under this theme of collaboration and bringing new partners into the work. As I mentioned, I recognize folks are stepping in and out today. So my job as your facilitator is to keep us, is to balance having like really good conversations and answering your questions, and keeping us relatively close to time today so that folks can come in and out if they need to, and come in at times that they expect at beginning of sessions, for example. Okay, I'm just looking through the chat and the Q&As for anything that feels urgent or pressing at this time. Again, those are both really good places if you have any questions for us or technical issues throughout the day. And our team will put our email address in the chat as well if folks would like to communicate outside of the webinar setting. Okay, well, we can launch into first a little trivia poll to help engage folks today. We have a couple of these trivia polls throughout the day, and then we have other things we'll add to the chat. So this is How many jurisdictions are in the Pacific States Oil Spill Task Force? And what year was the task force founded? Be a couple answers coming in still. May have given you the answers to this already, particularly if you're good at quick math. Okay, so yes, there are 6 jurisdictions of the Pacific States Oil Spill Task Force, 5 states and the province of BC. I'll share a little bit more as we walk through the next update for the group. And also some really good answers to poll number 2. So the task force was founded in 1989. And so we're coming into 36 years and 36 annual meetings. Okay. Thanks, folks. Next slide. So my goal over the next 10 to 15 minutes is to give you a sense of the task force and hopefully give you a little background if you haven't been to one of these meetings before, if you're new in your position. I recognize a lot of faces throughout the registrants and attendees, so I know many of you are familiar with and probably have even a longer legacy with the task force than myself. But I'll give you a little background on what the task force is, the and you'll be able to hear independently from each of the jurisdictions during our executive updates this morning. Next slide. Okay, so on the left, you can see the founding members of the task force. This photo was taken on the shores of Prince William Sound and about a year after the Exxon Valdez. The Oil Spill Task Force was originally the BC Washington Task Force after a spill on the Oregon, Washington, BC coast of the Nestucca. The task force convened, and the day after its first meeting in 1989, the Exxon Valdez ran aground. Alaska and other jurisdictions joined the task force relatively shortly after that, recognizing the importance of this collaborative collective work across the region and the impact of spills that cross waters and jurisdictional boundaries throughout the West Coast. The members of the task force, you can see logos here, the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, BC Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change Strategy, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Office of Spill Prevention and Response, or OSPR, Hawaii's Department of Health, Oregon's Department of Environmental Quality, and Washington Department of Ecology. And each of these agencies have jurisdiction over spills in their state, which is what brings them together on the task force. Next slide. So what does the task force do? We share information on regional and national oil spill programs, oil spill policy, and emerging technology with member jurisdictions. We coordinate and facilitate projects, workshops, and forums on oil spill prevention, preparedness, and response. We help create tools and resources to foster and encourage best industry practices. We engage with our industry partners in spill prevention and response planning. We support federal policy initiatives that help prevent oil spills and protect resources at risk. And we conduct ongoing research and communications to share our accomplishments with our partners, the public, and other stakeholders. You'll see this work throughout just this brief presentation at the beginning and also throughout all of the work and all of the sessions today. And how do we do this? So we have 4 key areas of work. Next slide. Advancing readiness and capacity to respond to oil spills, building interagency and industry partner cooperation and collaboration, building and enhancing visibility and relevancy of the task force, and nurturing our organizational health through connecting with one another. Next slide. So what I'd like to do is walk you through each of these and just give you a couple of examples of what that means and some of the work that's been happening over the last year. So this first body of work, advancing readiness and capacity to respond to oil spills. This means a few different things. First, the Oil Spill Task Force has a mutual aid agreement, which outlines the sharing of aid and resources and personnel in times of need. Again, going back to the origins of the task force, recognizing that oil spills cross and transcend jurisdictional boundaries, and additionally, there are experts throughout the West Coast that might be needed and helpful to be pulled in certain situations. So this mutual aid agreement has been updated and evaluated over the course of many years and currently serves as the structure for which jurisdictions can communicate with one another and formally request mutual aid. This agreement is exercised on a regular basis, at least every other year, by the coordinating committee and executives of the task force. There are also 3 working groups that meet regularly in addition to the coordinating committee and executives. These are the POSPET, or Spill Prevention Education Team. This working group is focused on small spill outreach and boater education. There's a working group on research and development, which meets twice a year and includes many of our industry and federal partners. And there's a working group on drills and exercises, which meets on a quarterly basis and maintains an annually updated list of drill requirements in each state and key personnel that would be trained and certified to staff positions. These working groups complement the work of the coordinating committee and executive teams of the task force. So the coordinating committee meets on a monthly basis and does a lot of the work of the task force in terms of communication with one another. The executive team are program administrators or leads that meet on a quarterly basis and do high-level visioning and planning for the task force and communicate at the level of at the executive level of their organizations. Next slide. Okay, number 2, building interagency and industry partner cooperation and collaboration. This means a few different things to the task force. So we do host the annual federal partner meeting, which was held yesterday. Much appreciation to those of you who were able to join for that meeting. I thought we had some really great conversations around a case study, around how both federal partners and states are approaching incident command, and some updates from our federal partners on a variety of topics. So we were recognizing that, again, many of our federal partners were unable to join us, and we will continue this collaboration with partners throughout the year. This is not the one time that we connect with our federal partners, although it becomes kind of a formal place for us to do that during the annual meeting week. So really looking forward to continued collaboration with folks across both the US and Canada, US Coast Guard, NOAA, EPA, BSEE, PHMSA from the US side, Departments of Fisheries and Oceans, Canadian Coast Guard, ECCC from Canada, Transport Canada, Natural Resources Canada, just to name a few. So my apologies if I've skipped anyone in that list, but some really great collaboration and conversation with folks between both the province and the state and our federal partners. We also attend agency and industry partner meetings throughout the year. This includes things like the American Petroleum Institute Spills Advisory Group. We have attended American Waterways Operators. We send representatives from the task force, whether that's the coordination team or individual members from the states and province, to hear what work is being done throughout the region and throughout the country. So Clean Gulf and the Clean Pacific events when those were occurring, just really great ways to connect over the year with partners across sectors. And we strive to be responsive to requests to participate in and engage with our partners. So please do reach out to the task force if you have other opportunities for us to be participating as a coordinating body or individually as states and province in this work that we do, recognizing that it's all collective work and really does transcend, sectors and regions. Next slide. Okay, building and enhancing visibility and relevancy of the task force. So what does that mean? Well, we host our annual general meeting, which is where we are all today. So again, thank you for joining us, and encourage you to look through your list of fellow attendees and see familiar faces there. We honor our partnerships through legacy awards. I believe we've given out just shy of 100 legacy awards over the last many years. And when I look through that list, I see names of folks who have been doing this work for their whole careers, and kind of a hall of fame of folks in this work. So again, really looking forward to announcing and sharing those legacy awards this afternoon. And thank you to those of you who are past Legacy Award winners who are joining us today. Current 2025 Legacy Award winners, I know we have 7 on the call today. And as I look down this list of folks, I imagine there are future Legacy Award winners in our midst as well. Other ways that we build visibility and share out the work that we do, we have an annual or biennial report. A lot of the photos that you're seeing in this slide and throughout the presentations today, you'll see in our report that was published just earlier this week to pair with the annual meeting. So we've gotten that out widely. We'll continue to get that out widely. We'll post it in the chat as you go throughout the day. I have already had some interest and requests from folks who have identified working groups and said, oh, that would be helpful for my work. How do I get engaged? How do I participate? And we just really welcome those kinds of, that kind of communication. So please reach out if you're perusing the website or the report and something looks interesting, reach out, and we'll try to connect you with the right folks or add you to a listserv or add you to a working group if it's the right fit. And finally, and I have bolded here because I feel like it's kind of the most foundational or critical of this work is the task force serving as a collective voice on the Pacific Coast on emerging issues. So the fact that folks meet on a regular basis, monthly and quarterly, have conversations about shared challenges, sharing accomplishments, problem solving issues that are coming up, and able to speak with this collective voice in addition to the voice of the individual states and province, is a legacy of the task force that represents the past 36 years and will represent the future work of the task force. Okay, next slide. So here you can see a link to the annual report. We'll post the website there too, and you can find it in the chat. Next slide. Okay, and finally, this kind of fourth bucket of work, and this really represents the work that the task force coordinating committee members and executives do with one another. So monthly meetings of the coordinating committee, which is a body of about 12 folks, 2 from each jurisdiction, and quarterly meeting of the executive team, who again represent agency administrators or program leads, and support the work of the coordinating committee and provide vision for the task force. The other thing that we're looking out to 2026 and really with a focus on continuing to develop and refine our onboarding materials and process for new members. So we have had, a number of people join the task force, and I'm going to get to this on the next slide, and a few folks leaving as well. And I think this might resonate with a lot of folks as we talk about transitions, both natural transitions of retirements and kind of an emerging workforce, and also a year of particular high number of transitions, both for federal agencies, state agencies, and I imagine industry as well. So the task force, is having the same conversations that I think a lot of your organizations are having. How do we keep that institutional knowledge from people who have been in this field for a long time, who are retiring and taking that with them? How do we keep that in the work that we do and bring people in with fresh eyes and fresh perspectives with a foundation of the past work? So that will be an emphasis for 2026. And with that, I'd like to go to the next slide and just recognize a few folks that we have had join us this year. So a big welcome to folks that are on the call. Jace Brooks, who's the Statewide Resources Section Manager, now with Washington Department of Ecology. John Topolovic at BC Ministry of the Environment, Parks. Heather Gelhart, who is our administrator from the Office of Spill Prevention and Response, OSPR. And Peter Brock, who's the Executive Director of the Environmental Emergency Branch of BC Ministry of the Environment and Parks. So I know all 4 of these folks are on the call today. Really the task force has welcomed them with open arms, and already all 4 of these folks are participating really actively in the work that we do and leading a lot of that work. So thank you and welcome to those of you who are new to the task force. And I hope as you look around the kind of virtual room and see folks that you feel like you're part of this task force family already. I would like to also recognize folks that have left the task force, and a lot. So I think what you're seeing here are 2 new executive members, 2 new coordinating committee members, and as folks have transitioned off as well. So Liam Devine, who was our coordinating committee member from BC Ministry of the Environment, Laurel Nash, who was our executive member from Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, Julie Yamamoto, who retired from her deputy administrator position with California OSPR, and Nee Irwin, who moved into a new position from the Statewide Resources Section Manager, Washington Department of Ecology. Just a huge thanks to all 4 of these people, and I just really want to recognize Nee in particularly as having a long-standing history with the task force. Wise and and knowledgeable for so many of the folks who have transitioned in over the last 1 to 5 years, and really understanding kind of the roots of the task force and the history and how to bring that forward with us into the future. So thank you to all these folks. Really grateful to be working alongside of you in this work, and just recognizing again, you know, in the spirit of these individuals, but also the agencies that sit on the task force. The task force is the 6 agencies that participate, as well as all of the folks that sit as working group members. The task force is just one part of all of their jobs, and as a coordinator, my job is to help, you know, ease the burden of them coming together and having these conversations. But really, it's the work that all of the individual folks and all of the programs and offices that are represented by the task force, and the work that each of you do in your own localities and states and province and throughout the region. Okay, and with that, I'll just share a photo from last year, which I thought was fun. From Salem, Oregon, was our chance to get together in person and have some of these conversations. Just a little snippet of some of the attendees that were there by the end of the day, and it's bittersweet for me, I think. I would love to be in person alongside of you all as well this year, and I hope that will happen in the future. And for now, I hope that this is a great opportunity to come together in a way that feels approachable this year, and have some of these conversations that we can continue to have even in this hybrid workplace that we're all still figuring out. And yeah, and with that, I'll open the floor if folks have questions about the task force as a whole or anything I've shared. We will start transitioning into some of the jurisdictional updates after that. So I'm going to look to my colleagues who are keeping an eye on the Q&A in the chat if anything comes in. Thanks, Carlos. That is a great group photo.
Quick question.
Sorry, we have a question in the room.
Yeah, please.
With since you seem to be in a room with the whole group, and then this goes out to the group too. What challenges, with everything going on with the federal government in the US and everything else, and also our partners in Canada, how can I say this? What or that would be good for your partners to know, so because something that might be trivial to you could be a big factor in how we're looking at how we would respond and how we would position ourselves to better support you. And this is to everyone. I mean, Oregon area, I mean, the littlest things that you didn't think would possibly matter are actually raising its head in your everyday, just trying to keep the lights on type scenario. We're seeing it here in Washington, and I just wanted to know if anyone else is.
And can I clarify, Carlos? So I think you're posing that to maybe the member jurisdictions as a whole, and then anyone else. I'll put the question in the chat. If there are agencies, organizations that would like to respond to Carlos's question, please use the chat to do that, and we can share responses. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing, and how can the task force assist with that?
I'll ask Morgan, but our biggest challenge is our state budget currently and our projected budget going forward.
Yeah.
And I know that California and Washington are in a very similar situation. It's going to be a real struggle for us to do our basic work.
Yeah.
Under our current budget and approved budget by the legislature. our legislature ended July 1st, and within a month, the governor is asking for the agency to present a reduction option of the current budget by 1.5% of our budget. And then they put a travel restriction on us for no external travel for training and for conferences out of state. So that's going to last through the next 2 years of the state of Oregon's budget. And it's likely going to get worse before it gets better. So for me, it's going to be the situation where it's having the funds to do the basic work of our program.
It's sort of the same thing I'm seeing here in Washington, where we had so many years of just growth, and a lot of the people sitting at this table, myself and some of us, past 4 or 5 years, it's been exponential growth. But then all of a sudden, a long-term issue has arisen its head, and with the funding side, and now we're contracting, and it is making us reevaluate how we approach and do everyday work. So, I mean, we've had to make some changes. We've had to, on one side, I look at it as an opportunity to look internally and what can we do smarter? What can we do better? Things that we might be doing redundant side. We reach out to Oregon, hey, if we're doing this, would you like to pair on to, training, things like that. We can be smarter, and it's a chance to better position ourselves for the future, be more resilient. But that does come at a cost. And like Wes wonderfully said, it's not us, it's everyone. California's been in it for a bit. And I've admired how they've navigated what's going on. And it seems like they're getting hit from all sides, and
Really.
but they're still there, and you're still carrying the banner. And we're just starting to see it for our side, but it's just wanted to see any tips or anything that might help along. Well, we did this, or I think this is where the task force really can step into, where more communication going, hey, we're starting to see this. What, any of you seen this or this coming up? I think I definitely would like to reach out to California a bit more and find out, even in this a bit, what any suggestions?
Thank you, Wes and Carlos.